Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and today I'm going to be working on the Patreon Drawing Request series, where once a month I go ahead and draw a picture for my patrons. They request a picture, and I go ahead and draw it. Now, there are a few things that I need to get out of the way before I go about going too deep with talking about this picture, but basically, the Blender community, those of you that might be disappointed that this is not a video about Blender, I'll do everything within my power to get a video out by Sunday. So, I've had a couple of complaints, some people saying that manually moving all of your in-betweens seems counterintuitive. There should be some other way of doing it. There is, and I'll be showing that in the video that I'm going to try to get out on Sunday. I'll do everything within my power to get it out on Sunday. Next, I've been my mind's not in the game this week. Somebody complained that the image quality for my videos have been kind of low, and I wasn't aware of that. So I wound up getting my videos to record at 1080p, and OBS successfully did that, my recording software, but it recorded it on a very small surface area, which it's hard for me to kind of describe, but basically when I threw all of the footage into the editing software, I had to blow up the image really big, and so at some point in the video the image quality is going to take a dip. This entire image I kind of struggled a bit because this time of the year I always have an extra amount of difficulty. It can get upwards towards 115 degrees out here. It's like living in Arizona. And I don't live in Arizona, I live in Utah. But it's stinking hot out here. And just things that are happening at work in my personal life, it was really difficult for me to stay focused and have the time to work on this image. So a few things didn't quite turn out the way that I wanted to. And next time around, if stuff like this comes up, then I'm just going to split it up into two videos. I've done it before. I don't know why I pressured myself to just work until the very last second to get this video out. I mean, that mindset has gotten it to the point where even this voiceover is suffering. I don't even have enough time to do anything more than remaster the audio. I won't be able to really edit anything. It's frustrating. You see that I drew two versions of a musician. I sometimes get phonetically, I get musician and magician mixed up. If I wind up saying magician by accident, I mean musician, okay? Now you see that I drew two different versions of the musician. One of them further away from the camera, and one of them really close up. And I liked both versions, but it seemed a little bit more depressing if he was away from the camera. So I decided, yeah, let's have it be a little bit more intimate and such like that. And I wanted him to be excited for playing music to dogs and such like that. And when I wound up inking the image, what wound up happening was the look of excitement can easily translate as creepy. Kind of like,
I like eating dogs for breakfast. Oh, goody. Here comes breakfast.
That sort of thing. And it took a lot of work. It was a challenge that I feel like I successfully accomplished, where I was able to get an expression that could easily be interpreted as creepy and made it look like excitement. And that was kind of cool to experience. There was a lot of experimentation with this image. Nothing is really formally drawn. I didn't really draw out a sketch. Well, I did draw out a sketch, but I didn't draw out the sketch with any formal techniques or anything. I just drew things out rather scratchy. And, actually, if you've seen my video, your training wheels for drawing backgrounds with perspective, if you've watched that video, you should be able to draw a picture just like this one. I did one piece of measurement inside of this image that I never showed inside of that video, but by and large, this image should be easy to accomplish if you have watched that video. At least the background, it should be easy to accomplish. Now, earlier you saw me watching some video on YouTube. I was looking for references for dogs. Believe it or not, I don't draw dogs very often. In fact, this is one of the first times that I've done it. And, I was this dog that's looking away from us. I wanted to get a reference image for that specific pose, and I thought that if I watched some of Homeward Bound, it's an old 1990s Disney cartoon that flopped. Basically, I thought if I could just freeze frame with the dog at that pose, then maybe I might have some sort of success there. But how long do I have to watch that old movie that's not very good till I get the pose that I want? And I tried using Google Images. How long do I need to look for reference images until I can draw again? That's some of where this image kind of failed, I feel, in that I was just so concerned about getting this image out and finished and everything that I just didn't focus on just providing quality. I mean, technically speaking, people are paying me to draw this image. Not much money, but people are paying for me to get this image done, and I'm disappointed that I'm out of time and I didn't do a very good job. And at least I don't feel like I did a very good job. I should have used references, even lighting references, and to color references sort of thing, in order for me to help me out a little bit, like how I did with the beer Patreon drawing request video. That some of that image, I've never made an image more convincing than that image to some extent in some areas. And this image just, it doesn't quite hit the mark. I kind of set the bar at a specific height, and I don't feel like I reached that level of success with this image. I mean, it's still a good image. When you look at the picture, you're looking at dogs, you're looking at a musician, that you're in New York City, and generally it should be able to make you a little bit happy. Sometimes, especially with this video, I really actually love the Patreon drawing request series, because it sometimes gets me to draw things that I would never even think about drawing. I would never draw this image just based off of my interests and what I personally enjoy drawing. And so, and that's a good thing, because when you animate things and you're telling a story, you're going to be animating stuff that you never thought that you'd ever animate. And so it might be able to spur a little bit of creative juices to get me to want to draw things that are a little bit outside the box that I'm normally in. And here I'm just inking the image with vectors, and earlier you saw me inking the musician, and you guys probably noticed it. That was the moment, like when I drew out the eyes, that was the moment where I was like, whoa, yeah, excitement can easily look like creepy as heck. So that was a challenge that I successfully wound up, I at least feel as though I successfully wound up remedying, getting rid of his creepiness. And you saw me cheat a little bit. I wound up copying the window and moving it up and making 2 copies in total. And I do the same thing with this window here. I made copies of it, and I wind up using the node tool, I think is what it's called, inside of Affinity Designer, in order to kind of sift things around a little bit. If I were to do that again, I would do it again, but I would do it a lot more carefully, a lot more methodically, and that sort of thing. Actually, Blender, I did an experiment last week. This is where the image quality takes a dip. But inside of Blender, I did a little bit of an experiment, and I successfully drew out a 3D drawing. Okay, now I'm not talking about making 3D models inside of Blender. Blender can do that, but I actually had a 3D drawing, which is awesome. And if I can work out a good, fast workflow for drawing in 3D in Blender, then that would be awesome. I think that would really, I think, improve some of the drawings that I have, and that I don't plan on fleshing out an entire picture, 3D picture inside of Blender or anything like that. It's more like I would draw out some basic things and then move it into Affinity Designer, and then I would go ahead and continue working. I think that the only thing that would hold me back from doing that right now is that I don't really know too many of the controls for the camera, like as if changing its lens aperture, that sort of thing, so that it's able to not just record what it currently records, but so that it can capture footage that's at something like 180 degrees around it, or even 360 degrees around it. If Blender can do that, then oh my gosh, some of my panoramic images that I draw, like, I can actually visualize things a lot easier. I kind of feel like the image for the fan art image for Babylon 5, I feel like that image has kind of suffered because of a difficulty in visualizing how things are, like where things are in 300 degrees. I still plan on finishing that image at some point in time and continuing that series. That series actually kind of became a little bit of an experiment in how to teach. And I think I learned a lot of what not to do. And so in the future, as I continue that series, I'm going to kind of change the presentation style a little bit, primarily because I kind of feel frustrated with how I handled it from the very beginning. And right now, you've been watching it for the last few minutes. I'm just laying down the base colors for everything, and that's cool and all. But if I may be allowed to make a request to my patrons for next month's Patreon drawing request, think of a story that I could tell inside of a picture. But could you please also, like, think of obnoxious light, like, lighting, like a light bulb, because sometimes, like, this is something that I've always wanted to practice, but I've never really been able to. I don't know what it is. It's like I haven't been able to think of any story that I could tell, and that's primarily what's kind of holding me back, I think, where people are in a place that has such obnoxiously brightly colored lighting that the peach color to their skin changes color. Like, there's no base color to their skin visible. It's as if their skin has changed color. I would like to draw a picture like that. In fact, it would be kind of cool to draw not just a white guy, but a black guy in that setting, to kind of understand how their skin is influenced with lighting differently. I think that would be kind of cool to kind of explore inside of a Patreon drawing requests video. Now, yeah, the dogs. I didn't want to draw teeth. Like, technically speaking, you would be able to see teeth, but you draw teeth on a dog and it looks scary. It looks like sharp things just generally look creepy. And so I just completely ignored the fact that dogs have teeth and just made them look happy. And yeah, this dog, right? I have 2 min pins inside of this picture. And the last dog that I kind of had, it was actually a girlfriend's dog. He was one of the best little dogs ever. He was a little min pin, and it was kind of cool, kind of including them. Earlier, when you saw me sketching, you saw me kind of draw out this rough sketch of a Pekingese as well, but or a Shih Tzu, whichever one. Like, Pekingese and Shih Tzus, they look kind of similar. Their behavior is a little bit different. I like the personality of a Pekingese a lot better, but like, I don't know, something about Pekingese, it's a lot more difficult to draw, especially in a cartoon style, I guess. I don't know, I guess I just wasn't I wasn't quite in the rhythm. I wasn't on fire like I normally am when I draw, and so I kind of took the easy route, and I just don't feel like I feel like the image has kind of suffered a little bit because of that. And here I'm kind of trying to address the creepiness. I experimented with facial expressions, and some of the facial expression experiments worked, like the highlight around his cheek that's still enshrouded in shadow. That right there I kept. And I experimented with the shadow around his nose and stuff. It's not just that he's excited, but he's also in shadow. Like the portion of his body that would be shaded, that's what's visible to us. And so all of that is the traditional sort of lighting that you would expect for something creepy. And here he is, he's excited, and so it has all of the lighting that you would expect for a creepy image. And so, yeah, these are challenges that I had to overcome, even if it meant like, okay, I would wind up seeing this a sort of shadow on his face at this point in time. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, I don't like it. Let's see if I adjust it a little bit. Maybe I might keep it. So I keep it, and then I try it again. No, that didn't work. I delete it. A lot of experimentation went into this video, or at least this image, and really kind of happy about it. One of the things that I think I'm going to steer away from in the future, I like blending modes. There's a lot of artists that just swear by blending modes, but it just seems like you're using the computer to try to determine what colors you should be using, and then instead of actually intuitively picking out your colors, and then you try the same blending mode elsewhere, and that blending mode doesn't work. I mean, like multiply is supposed to like put shadows on things, but it always like has this super high saturation, it seems like, and when things go into shade, they're not always super saturated. And so I think I'm just going to build up more of a visual library towards understanding an image's colors just intuitively, trying to do it that way. And normally I do that, and I did that for the majority of the image actually, but I just kind of felt like there's parts of the coloring that just kind of fell flat because I wound up using blending modes, and I just need to kind of steer away from that a little bit. I also kind of feel like, although I love the vectors inside of Affinity Designer, and I especially love the inking process inside of Affinity Designer, it does take longer, I feel, to deal with every single vector line or stroke or whatever, and trying to get all of the lines to cooperate with one another. It just, I don't know, I've said this before, but I think I'm going to try this. I've experimented with grayscale paintings in the past, especially with the subscriber drawing request with the Sci-Fi Warrior mouse image. I feel like I failed with that image. That's why I never really finished that image. Some people feel as though it's finished, but it's not. I don't like that image at all. I might redraw it, but like grayscale is one of those sorts of painting styles that I would like to try out again, but successfully. I think that I'm going to stay away from blending modes next time I try it, but I think it's more like gradient maps. I'll use a gradient map or something like that on multiple different layers, like multiple adjustment layers that have gradient maps, and just brushing in with the mask associated with that adjustment layer, just coloring the image with those, and seeing if that works out better. I think that would be a better approach, and I think the main reason why the Warrior mouse image didn't turn out the way I wanted it to is because I started with a white image, I think. It's hard for me to remember everything. And then I started to kind of darken it a little bit, and then I felt happy with the image. I think that the image just needs to be a lot darker than what the image wound up being in the end. And so when I wound up applying color to the image as a grayscale image with that sort of workflow, I feel like since the colors weren't as dark, the colors didn't have a chance to be as vibrant. And, you know, just generally that sort of thought process. And we're kind of reaching close to the end of the video here, and I'm just doing some final touches with the dogs. And, yeah, you know, I think it turned out okay. I just wish that I could have just done a little extra something to the image, even if it was like finding reference images or something. I don't know. If you like the image, feel free to leave a comment. If you don't like it, feel free to leave a comment. I'd be interested in hearing what you guys have to say, especially my patrons, because if I'm not happy with what I'm outputting, I can't really expect anyone else to be happy with what I'm outputting. And so, I don't know, that's kind of how I feel. So, yeah. Adding the last little bit of highlights. Here I'm just kind of experimenting with shading a little bit. I'm not quite sure if I necessarily succeeded with the dog closest to us. And here's the final image. And generally, you know, as the camera zooms in, if this was animated, it would be a really happy scene. And I like that. I don't like the coloring, but I like the emotion that is communicated. That's the one thing I like about the image. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to get more notifications from me, feel free to click on the bell. If you guys would like to support my channel, there's an image of my mascot to the upper right of the screen right now. And, you know, any support that you have to offer would be much appreciated. And if you'd like to see more of my content, feel free to click on anything that's appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.